Hey everyone, welcome to Masala Musings with me, Kari Bacha. You're listening to my show on the Single to Shadi podcast network, where I have a story for almost everything around being independent, being single, dating, just living my best life in general. If you like what I'm talking about, please follow us on all major platforms and leave a 5-star rating. This episode is going to be a little different from my other ones, yet familiar at the same time. To those of you who have followed me before or have been following me for a while, remember that I used to ramble on various things on my Instagram stories. And I also used to apologize for it because I would say like, "Ugh, it's so long, I just keep talking." And I would have followers actually who have told me they love it when I ramble. And I guess it's reminiscent also of Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City, if you know, you know, being at the window, and I wondered, typing out her column, just based around the things that have happened to her recently. So I've decided to lean in and be a little bit more rambly because I think that's just who I am and what I do. And those rambles are, in fact, my musings. A musing is actually defined as a period of reflection or thought, and or contemplation, deliberation, meditation, reflection, thought. Those are all that all falls under what a musing even is. So why not just lean in? And today's musing will be about getting yours. Yes, chase what you want, get yours, and there's no need to be sorry about what you want or like. It's what makes you you, and we're all allowed to be different. As long as you're not being malicious and hurting and with your actions or behavior, you're allowed to get yours and do what makes you happy. Chasing what you want can be hard. Trust me, I know. And I will share stories. Society and parents come to expect certain things from us, and we don't always find ourselves agreeing to any of it, or maybe not all of it. Maybe some of it. To stand by what you truly believe in can be really hard. And I personally have found that it's worth the pursuit. And so I encourage you all to think about those times where you did something that you want, and did you even regret it? And if so, what did you regret about it? Was it the fact that you tried and it didn't work out the way that you wanted it to? Or was it the fact that, you even made the decision? Like, what was it that made you regret it, if so? Because I have found that most of the decisions that I've made, at least if it didn't work out, I just go, well, at least I know because I tried. And it was something that I wanted to try, and I know better for it, wiser for it, and my own way. For instance, I used to feel super guilty about my preferences in the dating world. And maybe a lot of people can relate to this, but I used to feel some sort of self-hatred in the fact that I didn't want to be with an Indian man that had an Indian accent, or maybe was from India because I was scared of their mindsets and ideology about being with a strong, independent woman. The accent really just genuinely made me think of like family members, like my cousins, and it's not something that I was attracted to, but it felt incredibly mean. I mean, it still feels kind of mean, if I'm being honest. Like a prejudice against my own people when I, in fact, am very proud of my culture. I will say that I have given it a fair shot in the past in order to try to see if I can overcome it, and came to the realization that I cannot force myself to be someone that I'm not. And the guilt aspect of it is a challenging one to overcome, but at the end of the day, does my happiness not mean something? Like, I want to be content with the partner that I've chosen. And while, yes, it may seem trivial or make me feel guilty that I don't want a certain something, or I do want a certain something, it is not malintended, and it is just genuinely something that I feel like I cannot change the feeling that is within me. And I have tried to be open to the possibilities of those things changing, those feelings changing. Like, if I meet a great guy who does have an accent, and that's probably the only thing about him, if I still am able to overcome it, or maybe the accent is not as strong or whatever. I would like to think that I'm more open to it. I did actually not really. I mean, I went on a few dates with a guy who was from India, but he left when he was like 18 and he's like, I don't really spend a lot of time in India. I recall his accent not being very strong, but we did have like a we had like a chemistry, we had like a rapport back and forth. And it was really great. But ultimately, what didn't work out for me was the thought process of like, I live in this country, I live in the United States, and I have these thoughts and feelings about politics and, other things that do directly affect me. And he was more of like, why should you let that affect you? And it was kind of the same or of similar ideology of how your parents might say, like, just put your head down and work. If you've watched Hassan Minaj's Homecoming King, he has, that lok ya kahenge, or like that tax that he says his parents paid with like, there's a tax you pay by being an immigrant, you keep your head down, you work, like you don't listen to the hate that gets spewed. And I just didn't agree with that. The same way that Hassan also says that, like, no, I live in this country. I took, US history and in class, and they're telling me that if you were born here, you have these rights, and so anyway, that is a different tangent for a different day. But the point is that if things are not happening the way that I would like them to be, and again, it's not malintended, then why push it? I want to be happy as well. And if those are the preferences that I have and they make me feel a certain way, overcoming that sense of guilt is just it's just one thing. And I will say also a plug for therapy. Therapy has very much helped me with those things. So if you're also not in therapy, I encourage that to help you figure some stuff out. Now, speaking of dating, now's your chance to sign up for Single to Shadi's upcoming free event on August 12th. State of Desi Dating address. A Single to Shadi podcast panel will feature myself and fellow Single to Shadi podcasters, Utkarsh and Vaidehi. The three of us are currently single as of at least me recording this. And we have a lot to say on the state of dating. We have, you get a guy's perspective from Utkarsh. Vaidehi and I have similar thought processes. Some of it does differ, and we have talked about it between the two of us. So if you want to hear all of that, definitely join us. You can find a registration through the link in Instagram or on the Single to Shadi website. So again, it's free. It's August 12th. And don't be afraid to tell us who your favorite podcaster is when you join, because we're all supporting each other. We're all one big, happy Single to Shadi podcast network family. So I hope we'll see you there. Like I was saying, going after things you want can be hard. It can be hard to stick to your guns when everyone is trying to convince you otherwise for whatever reason. Maybe your reason makes no sense to anyone else. I've been there, done that. But your gut tells you that this is what you really truly want to do. Just trust it. Trust it, because even if it doesn't work out the way that you wanted, again, like I said before, you have the ability to say, well, at least I tried it my way and it didn't work out. And now I know, which is better than I got too scared and now I'll never know if, it would have been a better decision. Or maybe it feels like it's too late now to change and, somehow you talk yourself out of it. Just try not to. I don't know. That's only something that will come with practice, and it's something that you can start with smaller things to help you lead up to the bigger things. I know for me also meditation has, I think, also helped listen to myself. And now I was diagnosed with ADD as a child. And so I'm full aware of my ability to get distracted easily as an adult. And so even in meditation, I have so many thoughts that come through my head. But the power of meditation is the fact that you can recognize, oh, I got distracted, and bring it back to what your meditation goal is, which is it just focusing on my breathing? Is it just sitting up straight with my shoulders back? Is it like, what is it? What is it that you're focusing on? I like to do a guided meditation, because even when they give you a pocket of silence where it's just focus on your breathing, there's a voice that comes back and still is able to bring you back. Because then I'll hear it and be like, oh yeah, I'm meditating right now, not just sitting here with my eyes closed, thinking about all the other things that I have going on for the day or whatever. So that, I think, has helped me kind of listen to my inner self better. And be more in tune with, if this feels like the right move for me, I feel it within me. Or if I think something's going to happen, there are certain things I find myself saying with such conviction now. I'm like, I don't know where this confidence is coming from, but I really feel confident about this. And so I think it's just the ability to hear myself or be more in tune with the things around me and the energies around me. Maybe this is getting a little too woo woo, but I think I just understand the energies that are around me better. And it starts from within and listening to myself and my own gut and my own choices and decisions, you know? So the other thing is that fear, I think when we're young, we're so fearless, right? Like when you're a baby, a toddler, like you just do things. And then parents get scared. And as you grow up, there are things that you learn you're not supposed to do, or you figure out things that are scary to you, which are again are like that's still a gut feeling, right? Maybe you don't want to do something, but like the other person is doing it and you're like, why am I scared? Because your gut is like, we don't like this. This is scary. All that to say, I think society teaches us ways to fear as well. I think our parents' fears for us trickle into, of course, our own decisions. You know, again, society teaches us how to fear, I think, more so than we teach ourselves. But my therapist did once remind me that anything that you learn can be unlearned. And it's something that I remind myself of constantly. So it's like you might have learned to fear taking a certain action or make a certain decision because it's not something your parents would have done, or it's not something that makes sense to anybody else. But you can unlearn what makes sense to everyone else versus what makes sense to you and yourself and your heart and your gut. I made a decision to move to a bigger place when financially maybe it didn't make the most of sense as a long-term decision. Didn't make the most of sense, but I knew I wanted it. I feel that I had done all these other things that I wanted to do, and this was another step for me that I was like, I want to accomplish this thing. And even if it means financially I can only afford it for 6 months, I want to be happy and say like I got to that point for 6 months rather than I took a different decision that made me unhappy, and the place that I'm at will continue to remind me of the desperation reason for that decision. So the funny thing is I talked to my brother about it, telling him to convince, I was like, I need you to give me a pep talk about my decision because my parents didn't get it. They were like, this is the stupidest thing we've ever heard. And I asked my brother for a pep talk. I was like, I have sat down with a pro con list, but something is like sitting with me that's not letting me make this decision and I can't figure it out. And he was like, I'm gonna be real with you. This decision also doesn't make sense to me. But what I know is that you've thought about it and you've considered all your options and you seem to be really confident about what it is you want to do. So I encourage you to do it if that's what you really want to do, because I don't think me saying yes or no or giving you a pep talk in whatever way is going to actually help. He's my little brother. He's very wise. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And it ended up being that the series of questions he asked me I ended up hyping myself up because he was like, well, why do you want to do this? And so by me talking about it and me sharing all the feelings around it, I did hype myself up. And he was like, cool, happy to help get you there, even though I don't get it. And I probably wouldn't make the same choice. But the thing is, like, we came from the same parents, right? We grew up in the same household. He was thinking the same way as my parents. And he's like, you just think different. You just think different, and that's okay. That's you, as long as you feel good about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And I give myself credit as his big sister to be like, I would like to think that me making the choices that I've made has helped you with certain things in your life. But, you know, that's a really cool aspect to also hear back to yourself that, hey, you feel really confident in something that you're going to do. And even if you're making reasons not to, do you really want someone to convince you to not do something that you really actually want to do? Right? That's not what we want. If we want something, go get it. Go get yours. Finding someone to talk you out of it, cowardly. right? You're scared about something, and it's important to figure out what it is that you're scared about. Is it the outcome? Because if it doesn't work out, again, it just doesn't work out. But at least you're like, I made that choice and it didn't work out. And that sucks. But at least I know I made the choice versus like if you do something that your parents say and it doesn't work out, guess who's to blame? You go, see, I didn't want to do it. You convinced me to do it and I listened and now look what happened. Ironically enough, I used to bring it up very often about other people in my life or world or extended life and world who had an arranged marriage and it didn't work out. And I would say, see, they did as their parents told them. And now look what happened, because it would always be some sort of shocking story of like, and there was a secret girlfriend, or he didn't have any money, or whatever, insert thing here. And I'd be like, see, or you can just let your kid pick the person that they want to be with, and that happiness will be more important to you rather than did you make the right choice because we wanted you to make X choice. And speaking of which, plug for Single to Shadi. Single to Shadi is not your parents' matchmaker. They're gonna match you up with the people that you want to be matched up with, the kinds of people that you want to be matched up with. There's so many different offerings out there, down to, even if it's your second time shadi, if you want astrologically, and want to be connected with someone or figure out the kind of connection that you want to get with someone. So I know I like Single to Shadi because of their matchmaking offerings and the fact that there's singles mingles all around the country. Every month you can see a different city that Single to Shadi is going to be in, and it allows you the chance to walk around and meet whoever it is you want to meet. And if you saw my last episode about friendship, even if you don't meet your partner, you might meet some friends. You might meet some friends that you travel with. You might meet some friends who can watch your dog when you go traveling. So yeah, check it out, singletoshadi.com, or scroll through our Instagram page. Doing that thing that is right for you over what is expected can also help break cycles. A couple of years ago, I was mega unemployed. I was working like 5 jobs to make ends meet. And an old boss of mine offered me the opportunity to join him at a new company that he was working at. The pay was unfortunately lower than what I worked, like lower than what I got when I worked with him 5 years prior. I'm actually going to stop this here. Doing that thing that is right for you over what's expected can also help break cycles. A couple of years ago, I was like super, super unemployed. I was working multiple jobs trying to make ends meet. And an old boss of mine popped up and offered me the opportunity to join him at a company that it was a new company that he had just joined. It was a startup, it was up and coming, but the pay was lower than the pay that they were offering was lower than what I was making when I first worked with him 5 years before. And the role wasn't even a role that was relevant to my background or my career. And so I was very torn because what it provided was a stable paycheck and the chance to, like, quote, get off the bench and back into the game, which was enticing. Like, it would have helped my financial situation enough. Even if it wasn't great pay, it would have been better. But I played that game before, where I took whatever job I needed to because it was in my mind that I had to have a job to survive. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but there's parameters around that, right? Especially like the preference of like what kind of job and why. What are you, again, like what are you willing to take? Even though I was working a bunch of jobs and it was really strenuous, it wasn't that tough. I was more at peace with it. I remember thinking, even if I am working all these jobs, I'm okay. I know what to expect from all of these things, and I know where things are flexible. And so I'm more at peace with it. And I remember thinking that I would rather have all these jobs and keep doing this till I find the job that's right for me at the pay that's right for me, rather than take the cop out, really. Like, take the job that's just coming because it just is a stable paycheck. But the downside is that I would have to learn a new job and would probably realistically keep looking for a job that's more aligned with my career because I worked really hard to build that career path for myself. And I do like my day job, my 9 to 5, my career. So that's where I ended up really taking this to heart and turning down the job. Because I also needed to break the cycle of desperation where I just took the easy, quote, easier out for the reasons that felt justified. But then my dream opportunity came along and nearly fell into my lap. I wasn't even actively seeking a job like this or at this kind of place, but a recruiter that I hadn't talked to in years reached out to me about this huge company and they needed a contractor. I was in shock. I couldn't believe my luck. I even remember telling him that, like, whatever it takes to get this job, please tell me. I will follow everything that you tell me to do. Multiple, like, thank you, like, letters. Should I handwrite them? Should I email? Like, I will do anything. I was like, can you not recommend anyone else for this role? Like, how can I get this role? Because I could not believe my luck. It was at the kind of company that I always wanted to be at. And it was a building downtown. I used to always say, like, I would drive around and be like, it would be so cool to work downtown in one of these buildings that had the company's name on it. That'd be so awesome. And that's what was happening. This building, this company had their own building, had their own office, forget office, their own building with offices downtown. And I would get to go and work in that office and be part of that company, which is crazy because, like I said, I wasn't even actively necessarily like applying to jobs there. This opportunity just came along and I ended up working there for 11 months. So just short of a year with 2 roles, like 2 different contracts that were incredibly relevant to my career and at a pay that was so bananas to me because it was the most I had ever been paid in my career. And I was so incredibly happy. But it was because I believed in myself and what I knew I wanted. Because if I had taken that easier out and if I had taken that other role, I would not be available to take this role. And I often say that, like, the old boss coming around and setting that up for me was a test. It was the universe testing me to say, like, you could do this. Or if you've learned anything about anything in the past, 10 years of my career, don't take the easy out and better things are ahead. And so I broke that pattern and it made way for this beautiful newer lesson learned and, me being happier. So that's just like, again, I said no to something that didn't make sense at the time. I remember thinking, God, I hope turning this job down, from my old boss was not a mistake because even though the salary was terrible, I was like, it's better than, making $15 an hour here and $20 an hour there and 20, whatever. Like I was making scraps of money from various places to make it work. But yeah, I mean, sure, the job didn't last longer than I would have liked it to, but that's not the point of this lesson. That's for a different musing, those lessons. But there's power in believing in yourself, and that can be really, really hard to just simply believe in yourself. If I didn't have these kind of beliefs, I if that hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened with my career, I would not have the same beliefs that I have today about my life in general. And that includes dating of what I deserve and that I want to get mine. I want to get what makes sense to me. And I'm willing to hold out for that person that I want. And along the way, I might have lessons learned from different dates or dating different people for different lengths of time. But it's also how I got this podcast, these beliefs that if I didn't have these beliefs, put them into Instagram, Single to Shyly wouldn't have reached out and said, hey, I like the way that you talk about things. How about a podcast? because it's not something that I ever thought about. And when Single to Shadi was launching their podcast network, they reached out, they found me, they said, hey, this is a great belief system. Why don't we give you a platform to connect with other people? So definitely please follow us, a Single to Shadi podcast network, on Instagram, on Spotify. Follow us, subscribe, rate my podcast, leave a comment. Tell me your stories. I would be so excited to see and hear from any and all of you about how anything that I might be saying resonates with you. So yeah, rate and subscribe to Single to Shadi Podcast Network. My musings. Um, just, it would be this, like, stand your ground, do what makes you happy, and again, get yours. Because I think it's so important that we talk more about the things that we want to do with our lives for our own reasons. And I think it will help inspire the next generation to get theirs and chase what's important to them and believe in themselves. Because again, I think that society teaches us how to fear, and it's up to us to teach ourselves to have more courage in ourselves. Again, anything that can be learned can be unlearned. So if you have learned to have this fear, you can unlearn that fear, and it will only take practice. And practice, they say practice makes perfect, but practice can also just make progress. And that's just as important. So get yours, people. Stand your ground, go after what feels right for you, and you'll never know what and when you're going to get everything that you want out of life. With that, I'm going to pick a quote from Empowering Mantras. Mantras? Who am I? Empowering Mantras. It does say for awesome women, but I think this can apply to anyone. I'm just picking one at random, and we're going to read this one. Okay, this is really nice. For there is no friend like a sister in calm or stormy weather, to cheer one on the tedious way, to fetch one if one goes astray, to lift one if one totters down. I don't actually want this one. So with that, I'm going to read a quote from this Empowering Mantras book. I did just flip through and found a random one that I did really, really like. And it just says, the most effective way to do it is to do it. It's by Amelia Earhart. And there's this image that says, your life is your own doing. So get yours, and your life is your own doing. So just do it. Do it. Don't overthink it. Trust your gut. Get yours. Until next time, fam. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Masala Musings. I hope you found something inspiring or helpful as you continue your journey towards meaningful connections. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps others find us and join the fam. You can also follow us on Instagram at Karibadsha and Single to Shadi Podcast Network for updates and bonus content. This is Curry B, and I'll see you in the next episode.